It's me. So as a quick little aside, I definitely didn't already try and do this, but my microphone wasn't working. It definitely didn't happen. So this is all this very first question that we do. Definitely didn't already read it and all that stuff before. So just pretend with me that this is the first time I'm reading through this. Okay? Can you do that for me? Okay. So Zach, we haven't done this one. Okay. Hey guys, you want to read some Reddit? Okay, very first question that I definitely did not read before. 1 year into my back pain journey, here are 5 things I wish someone had told me on day 1. Just past my 1 year mark of dealing with lower back pain, looking back, here are the things I wish I had known from the start. Not medical advice, but just some personal experience. Your core is probably weaker than you think. I consider myself fit because I could run and do push-ups. My physio asked me to hold a plank, and I collapsed at 8 seconds. Core strength and core endurance are different things, and endurance is what your spine needs for support during a long day of sitting. The McGill Big 3 exercises address this specifically and were the foundation of my recovery. The thing causing your pain is often not where the pain is. My lower back hurt, but the root cause were weak glutes, tight hip flexors, and terrible sleep posture. Everything was compensating for everything else, and my lower back was just the weakest link in the chain. A good physio will look at the whole chain, not just where it hurts. Your sleep setup matters more than your desk chair. I spent months researching ergonomic chairs and desk setups while sleeping 8 hours a night on a sagging mattress in the worst possible position. I was optimizing the 8 hours at my desk and completely ignoring the 8 hours in my bed. When I finally addressed my sleep setup, firmer mattress, side sleeping, proper pillow, my morning pain dropped dramatically. I genuinely wish I had done this first. Walking is medicine, not a jog, not a run, just a walk. 20 to 30 minutes of gentle walking every day did more for my back than most of the exercises I tried early on. It promotes disc nutrition, reduces inflammation, and breaks the cycle of sitting. My physio called it the most underrated treatment for back pain. Bad days do not erase good weeks. This was the hardest one to accept. You have a great week of low pain. You feel optimistic. Then one bad night of sleep or 1 day of prolonged sitting sends you back to a 5 out of 10, and suddenly you feel like all progress is lost. It is not lost. Recovery is a straight line. The bad days become less frequent and less intense over time, even when they feel devastating in the moment. For those of you early in the journey, it does get better. Not overnight, not in a straight line, but it does get better if you're consistent with the right things. Okay, so that is a humongously useful post. I'll tell you that right now. If this piece of information was distributed to every single person on the planet Earth and they could read it, I think that the majority of the cases of low back pain would probably would drop to on a staggering level. There's a lot of really key takeaways to this very specific take on the low back pain that this person was talking about. Now, this person did not go over where the pain was, like specifically in the low back. Low back can be a pretty big place. It didn't really go over the mechanism of why it was bothering them, and it didn't give a lot of really key details for me to just assume like this is going to be beneficial for everybody. But it does have a lot of key takeaways where somebody on their own can do little things to just improve their spinal hygiene at home. And the very first one with the plank, or not with the plank, but with the core strength, is super helpful. Personal anecdote, my dad actually came to me and asked me if there was anything I could do for his low back pain. I told him to start doing planks. 30 minutes to a... geez, if you do a 30-minute plank, God, what are you coming with? Yeah, you're fine. You don't have low back pain if you do a 30-minute plank. A 30-second to 1 minute plank is really helpful for treating a low back pain that you're not entirely sure of, like, it's kind of like where it's coming from. Like, direct trauma is usually really easy to tell. If you get hit by something in a certain area, you have pain in a certain area. More than likely that certain area has just got damaged from the impact or whatever it is. That's easy to understand. But a lifestyle type low back pain, or back pain in a lot of different places, but a lifestyle type low back pain like that is going to be caused by kind of what he was getting at, what we refer to, I guess, as like a weakest link. This is probably a lower cross syndrome type situation, especially with the muscles that he was saying were getting too weak or too tight. It's because of constant sitting that humans, especially Americans, tend to eventually go into this lower cross syndrome, and I'll probably put a picture of it up, where it's essentially 2 muscles are too tight and 2 muscles are too weak. But if you do core-based exercises that promote endurance as opposed to actual strength, I think that really, really helps. And you'll notice a lot of people that you would not usually associate with being weak. There's definitely a lot of athletes out there who don't have great cores, but you would not really associate them with being like lazy, I guess might be a good word for it. But what can happen is that you have a very strong muscle, but if that muscle remains unengaged, especially while you're doing something active, it can start rearing its really ugly head. And you'll notice that nowhere else more often than not than the core. The core, your abs and your shoulders are probably where you're going to notice that more often than not. And that's usually why there's upper and lower cross syndromes. For your own sake, what I would probably try to do, if you can, is try to throw in a plank somewhere in the middle of your day. I like to think that the best time to do it is like early in the morning, like when you first get out of bed. Just put yourself into a really good plank position and hold it for like 30 seconds to a minute. If you can't do 30 seconds, do as long as you can until it starts to become painful. Don't do an exercise if it starts to hurt. Just, let it go and you'll get there eventually. But if you can do yourself a huge favor and throw in a little bit of core endurance exercise, you will absolutely get paid back in dividends. 100% worth it. Highly recommend it. Absolutely do it. And yeah, go ahead. The McGill Big 3 exercises, I'm not super familiar with specifically, but I imagine that there's some kind of variation of like a plank or some kind of extended hold, probably like a bird dog or like a Superman type kind of situation. Maybe not Superman. Superman's more for like, I guess it would be like dead bug. Probably more of like a dead bug type exercises. Those are all really good though. Glute bridge, also really great postural exercise that helps with glute strength. Definitely recommend that one as well. But yeah, go talk to your physicians for that one, or your chiros, or your in this case physios, your PTs. Physio, I think, is just another word for physical therapist. This guy, or I say guy, this person might be European. That sounds like more like a European way of putting it. But yeah, just keep that in mind. Also, the sleep thing, absolutely worth looking into. I have been asked as ad nauseum what kind of chairs I like, or what kind of pillows I like, or what kind of mattresses I like. And I'll be quite honest with you, I have very boring answers. I'm not a huge fan of the big expensive ergonomic and orthopedic pillows and sandals and blah, blah, blahs. In my personal opinion, if you're going to invest in something, invest in a good, firm mattress. As firm as you can take it before, while it's still comfortable. Do you need to buy a rock? Do you need to lay on a literal slab of marble? No, but it will behoove you and your back to lay on something that is not going to bend while you're laying in it, because when you lay on your side, the unequal distribution of your back is going to cause it to want to, I'm going to use the word kink. It's not really a good way to describe it, but it'll cause you to move in such a way where your back is not sitting straight, or it feels like it's unsteady. And in the middle of the night, your muscles might actually try to hold your back as firmly as possible, because it's scared that while you're sleeping, you're gonna essentially hurt yourself, because it's trying to remain stable. And a stable mattress is gonna 100% be very helpful to prevent a lot of that. Sleeping on your side, I don't really mind how people sleep. The only one that really gets me is sleeping face down. That one I find is not really so great for the neck. There are probably some ways to get around that nowadays, especially if you're laying down in something where, as long as you can, because most of the time when you're sleeping face down, the biggest issue you have is you can't breathe, so you have to like turn your head to the left or right. I'm not a huge fan of that sleeping position. If that's just the only way you could sleep, my general rule of thumb, any sleep is better than no sleep, so sleep as best you can. Some people really just don't have a lot of say in how they sleep, because they'll go to bed in one direction, and then when they wake up, they can, they do the merry-go-round or the rotisserie chicken, where they do like a full 360 on the bed. That's absolutely fine. Do what you can. And don't worry about the stuff that you can't necessarily worry about. And maybe if you get a better... And something that I always like to think about is, are you spinning around while you're sleeping because the mattress isn't very firm? That's always something that I like to think about. But yeah, give it a shot. I would say try different mattresses. Trust me, I know mattresses are expensive. Something you could always do to firm up the bed is you could get things to put underneath your comforter. I know that there are definitely ways to firm it up. You could also just sleep on blankets that are like evenly distributed on it, just to kind of firm it up a tiny bit, to put a little bit between you and the mattress itself. But I will say investing in a good mattress is a very good way to prevent yourself from suffering from a lot of back pain. Give it a shot. I know it's expensive. It's definitely worth something. It's definitely worth researching, but firm is better than soft. It sounds counterintuitive. Soft is not good, especially while you're sleeping. Super useful bit of advice there. And then as far as the walking goes, yeah, I will say, as I've said ad nauseum, one of my favorite quotes of all time is, if you find yourself in a bad mood, go for a walk. And if you're still in a bad mood when you're done, go for another walk. Absolutely recommend walking as one of the most fundamental of exercises. It exercises your entire body pretty much at the exact same time. It's very low on demand and stress. It's great for the heart because it just promotes a nice, even type of movement. It's super useful for things that you don't even think about, especially the endocrine system, especially with stuff like blood sugar. It's very helpful for diabetics. It's just a fantastic thing to do. And it's super low demanding physically and mentally. You could just listen to a book while you're walking. You could, talk to your parents or whatever. You could call your kids. It's so easy. it gives you the perfect opportunity to get that blood pumping. It's especially useful to do a walk after dinner because, again, of the blood sugar redistribution, or the better control, shall we say. Your pancreas will thank you, I assure you. I mean, if nothing else, just reading that, there's a lot in there that I could go into more detail about, but it's just really helpful stuff here. Highly recommend you start applying some of this to your own life. Sleep is super important. Try and get 8 hours of sleep. And I will say, everybody's always very obsessed with the ergonomic setup at their work desk. It is really important. I'll never say that it's not. But I do think that people are focusing a little bit too much on that particular bit of ergonomicness, but then like not all the other factors of their life. Where you are spending 8 hours at your desk, and it's really important to have a good chair. It's really good to have like a proper setup for your wrists and all that stuff. But, you know, you go to work, you probably drive, let's just say an hour both ways, you know, for your commute. That's 10 hours of your life, but there's another, you know, you figure 12 hours of life that you have, like, you know, that are unaccounted for, that people just don't even really think about the ergonomics. There's a lot of little things you could do throughout life, throughout your day, just to make yourself feel better. I just put it that way. And if you need any ideas on that, you know, give me an email, whoever. Talk to your physician. I'm sure they have a lot of good things they could tell you. So let's do some comments. So the very first one, I'm at the same spot. Even if I exercise every day and do exercises, my back still hurts like a ton. It's been a year since I first experienced it. Yeah, as I said, just because you're in really good shape does not mean that you are not going to get low back pain. Being strong and having muscles that are doing their job are like two very, very different things. Work on endurance. I always talk about it like from in the sense of like form. You want to make sure your form is always really good when you do an exercise, and good form for most exercise almost always includes a solid core, or at least bracing before you do it. There's a reason. Even if you are somebody who works out a lot and you just refuse to do planks for whatever reason, if you're doing an exercise, if you actually tense the core, that is also a good exercise. Like the way I like to tell people is any exercise can technically be a great core exercise because most exercises require core. Just kind of keep that in mind. Here's another really good one. Tip number 3 is so real and criminally underrated. People will spend $1,500 on an Arian chair and sleep on a 10-year-old mattress that sags in the middle. You're horizontal for 8 hours. That's not a minor variability. No less signature is built for side sleepers with back issues. Okay, there you go. So yeah, maybe give that brand a try. Can't say I'm familiar with that one in particular, but yeah, it's just so important. People with the mattresses and just the super weird lack of interest in how you sleep, and I don't know, it's weird because like I think people just think that mattresses are supposed to be soft because they attribute soft with good, but it's kind of like brushing your teeth. So I probably look completely different. Don't worry, I got a phone call and then I got really busy for the day and I couldn't finish that video, but I'm going to pick up right where I left off. You're probably going to hear Massachusetts in the background. I apologize. That's the sound of Massachusetts and its background. I will say that very similar to mattresses, you think about toothbrushes. A lot of people think that a soft toothbrush is better, but technically speaking, you want a toothbrush that has a lot of like firmness and support to it. Because when you have something that has more, a little bit more like firmness to it, it's better for actually cleaning your teeth. So I think a lot of times people associate soft with better. That goes to mattresses especially, just because they think, oh, if it's soft, that means it'll be like less hard on my back muscles or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Which, to a certain extent, that might be the case. And obviously, everybody's always going to be a little bit different. But I will say that more often than not, you want a mattress that has some firmness to it. Don't go too soft. That's my rule. Ooh, I really like this one. I've been very iffy on core back, focused core strengthening. I don't know if core, I don't know if you have to say core twice that time. Only because the exercises are so easy, they just feel pointless. But I started about a week ago, and I'm doing 8 weeks of it. I just have to make things a little more difficult, i.e. single leg glute bridges, for example. Dead bug seems to be the most engaging exercise. I have DDD, which is probably degenerative disc disease. That's usually what that abbreviation stands for. Again, abbreviations without explanations really get me going. And I did read a study where DDD sufferers did a similar routine for 8 weeks and went from a 6 pain level to a 1, which surprised me. The mattress is pretty critical, though. I had to pull a Goldilocks to find the right one. I was surprised at how firm it had to be. I'm somewhat convinced years of crappy mattresses may be what got me into this. Yeah, that's possible. I will say, like, just a mattress probably won't cause you, I guess, damage on the long run. I don't know. It's not going to help, but I think it's very much a multiplier of already bad or poorly thought of lifestyle type stuff. But the DDD comment and the core exercises, yeah, absolutely couldn't agree more. Core exercises are super important. Dead bug is great. I'll probably show a picture of what a dead bug is, but dead bug's super easy. You just lay on your back and you put one arm and the opposite leg, you put them out at the same exact time. It's the idea is that you're in the position of a bug, like a cockroach, if it gets crushed and lays on its back and the legs move, as I believe why it's called that. But the dead bug is an excellent core exerciser slash strengthener slash engager, just because of the fact that you are doing an active movement. And when you do that active movement, if you do it nice and slow, it can train the brain and the muscle distribution patterns, or however you want to think about it. Does a very good job of programming it to do what you want while you're doing something that involves your arms and legs. Most namely walking. That's the big one. Yeah, dead bug's an absolutely fantastic exercise. Yeah, it's definitely not pointless. And it makes everything else better as far as exercise goes. Just keep working on core. You can't go wrong with it. I guess we're going to go to the next question. Yeah, it goes to show you where in the world of, working this job, how quickly the day escapes you. Okay, so here's the second question. This was a good lifestyle-based one. It's good. I really dig this one. It's kind of long, though, so here we go. 7 months ago, I quit doom scrolling poopy food and started waking up at 6 a.m. This is an update. I believe this was 8 days ago. So this must be an update from like a previous post, which I don't have access to, but I'm assuming there's a bit of a description of like what it's updating in here. So it'll kind of make sense when we read it. About 4 months ago, I made a post here explaining how the grind mindset ruined my life. I talked about how willpower is basically a battery, and if you use it all just to get out of bed or fight your phone, you have nothing left for actual hard work. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm just going to leave it just before. I'm going to interrupt myself immediately. Doom scrolling and all that, very much a time waster, and it actually does take a lot of effort to get off of it. Those things are made to do that to you. They're made to kind of capture your attention. I fall for it all the time. I'll just be sitting there and I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna look at Facebook real quick to see if I got any notifications, and then I doom scroll just a tiny bit, and then all of a sudden like 20 minutes goes by. It happens all the time. It's purposely made to do that. It's not necessarily your fault. Just kind of keep your mind and eyes on it. That post blew up, and a lot of guys asked me to post an update, thinking I'm gonna fail. Well, it's been about 7 months since my day one, September 20th. Here's the honest truth of what stuck, what failed, and the new traps I had to figure out. Spoiler: I didn't turn into a monk, but my life is completely unrecognizable now. Environment is still everything. I still don't use willpower for my diet. I just don't buy snacks. If I want junk food, I literally have to put on shoes and walk to the store, and I'm too lazy for that. My screen time is low, 1 to 2 hours, because the app blockers stay on. The lazy method still works. What's new? Around month 5, the excitement of self-improvement completely died. It just became boring routine. You just have to learn to fall in love with doing the boring, repetitive stuff every day, and it will compound. Okay, so this is a really long post, so I'm just going to dissect it as we go. The environment is the most important thing, is 100% the truth. If you don't have the things that tempt you to do the things you know you shouldn't be doing in your house, it's significantly easier to avoid doing it. A lot of times when it comes to dietary stuff especially, you'll definitely notice that if you just stop buying the things that you know you're not supposed to be eating, if it becomes difficult or you add a level of restriction, or maybe not restriction, but friction to doing something you know you're not supposed to, you're much more likely to not do it. Which is why diets are notoriously difficult for people who are married or have like some kind of significant other or kids, because if the other person doesn't also get on the diet with you, all those things that you're trying to avoid or stay away from tend to still be in the house. That's something that you see quite a bit. As far as the app blocker doing the job of keeping you off of your phone, something like that, again, adds friction. And if you can just be mindful of the amount of time you're spending on your screen, like I said, makes a huge difference. I would 100% just do something like that. And as soon as you see how much time you spend on apps, a lot of times you're just like, oh God, I'm spending so much time on this. Let me try and put it away. And I will say that those little tiny bits of time that you waste while looking at your screen, it's okay to do it every once in a while. Like, it's fine. If you want to go on Facebook, look at your favorite page, somebody's got like a new cooking recipe or whatever it is you like, there's nothing wrong with that. But you'll actually be shocked at the amount of weird little things you can do around the house or at work with those like 5-minute increments that you might not be using to the most effectively. With me, I like to like kind of wipe something off or organize something real quickly just to kind of get things moving. And a lot of times when you start doing a 5-minute task, I get kind of excited about it and I just keep working on it. Those little 5-minute blocks of time, you can use them really effectively. Highly recommend it. And also I think there was a post on here that we talked about before with the whole like what is sexy and not sexy. The whole it becoming boring thing is 100% what I was getting to at that. It's just the little things in the background that you do that nobody wants to talk about. If you keep doing them, that's where the real changes happen. And then all of a sudden in 3 months when you look thinner or you look way better or you have way more energy and people are like, wow, what's the one thing you did where you got this big, huge benefit that, I didn't see all the hard work that you did in the background. What's the one thing? And you're like, how about 3 months of boring? And people are like, I don't like that. That's hard. That's difficult. That's essentially what they're saying. Waking up at 6 a.m., it still sucks sometimes, to be honest. The alarm clock is on the other side of the room. The bomb goes off, and I physically have to get out of bed. What's new? It's just my identity now. My work improved so massively because those early morning hours are so clear. When you wake up at 1 p.m., you already lost the momentum, and I just refuse to go back to being that guy. 100%, I think that if you add a layer of difficulty or restriction to like just hitting the snooze button and staying in bed, 100%, it gets a lot harder to go back to bed at the 6 a.m. And sometimes there's even, it just stinks waking up early in the morning. I mean, I hate doing it. I am not a morning person in the slightest. 10 is when I would like to wake up. When I wake up at 10, I feel great. Not everybody's the same, but I do know that not everybody has the same amount of motivation with getting out of bed in the morning. One of my favorite Marcus Aurelius quotes is, when you wake up in the morning, it's nice and warm in the bed, but is this what you're destined as a human to do? We're meant to get out and do things. Are you meant to just lay in bed all day? No. Is it very comfortable and tempting? Absolutely. But you got to get out of bed to do the things that you need to do as a person. That's just part of life, I suppose. I'm just being a negative Nancy today. Mind wandering in work. This is where the biggest compounding happened. Sitting at the desk and thinking what next used to kill half my day. In my last post, I mentioned how much systems matter, and I am still doing the exact same thing, just way more dialed in. I see so many people jumping between apps like Notion, Todoist, Slack, etc., trying to find the perfect magic setup, but you just need to pick one and stick to it. I use systems from the One Thing book, and for the last 7 months, I mainly use Proposa app to stay focused on my goals and habits, and Notion as a big picture document station, big plans, ideas, personas, because I actually stuck to the setup instead of changing it every week. My productivity literally 10 times. The system just does the thinking for me now. If you keep relapsing, stop blaming your brain. Your brain is fine. Your environment is just set up for failure, changing the root of the problem. For everyone who started their day one when I made my last post, are you still going? What is the one thing you want to change the most right now? Okay, so the whole idea of using these different apps and programs to help with your productivity. You ask anybody around me, especially the ladies in my life, I am very, very resistant to apps. I do not like apps. I don't like things that I have to like log into and all these different things, and they're like, oh yeah, well you have this thing that's working, why don't you just completely change it because this other system might be a little bit better. It's just like every time you switch something, to me it just feels like you're not learning how to use what you already had, maybe to the top of its level. Sometimes you use a program that really is slowing you down, but if the amount of time it's slowing you down isn't so considerable that it's become like a problem, is it worth learning a whole new system? Sometimes it might be, in my opinion. But let's just say when I was doing video editing and all that, I used a lot of Adobe Premiere. I'm just gonna put it out here. I'm not sponsored by Adobe, but I think Adobe Premiere is awful. It is a terrible program for what content creators at my level need it for. I'm not making movies. I'm just making little videos. And every time I tried to use that program, it just fought me the entire time. And I found that the amount of time I was wasting doing it was not worth the amount you're paying for it, because Adobe is obnoxiously priced. I'm sure I'm not blowing anybody's mind here. I started using DaVinci's program, which I believe is called Mojave, which it might say in the notes down below that this video was edited using Mojave or whatever. Again, not sponsored by anybody. But I find that using that program, it's much more simple. It doesn't give you as many like options for super fancy video editing type stuff, and there's like some upcharges for like certain things you can put in the video and all that, but I don't, whatever, using that system, because it's much more simple, it's just a much more streamlined experience for what it is that I'm trying to do. That was a great switch. Now switching, like getting an app when you go to a store like once every like couple months, and every time you go in you have to like open the app up, you forget your password, then you got to redo the thing, you got to get the password again, and all that stuff. I just feel like it's an unnecessary burden into my brain, and I just don't want to deal with it. I'm sure a lot of people probably feel that way, but just every single time you add something into your life, that's another thing you have to like remember and keep track of, and it just takes up a part of the bandwidth in your brain. I just like to keep it simple. The world is currently very busy. There's a lot of busy work that I think people think is super important, but it's really not. When you really boil down to your life to its most basic components, take care of the things that matter, take care of your family, take care of the people that you love, and everything beyond that, and and yourself, of course. But like all the extra stuff where you're like, hey, you have to do these extra things to make other things work, and sometimes it's better to just give them the dollar bill. You're paying for something, just pay them. You don't need an extra credit card. You don't need an app to get like some kind of extra points or whatever that you're going to use in 6 months time. Just pay the money and leave. And every single time people ask you like, you want to go on our mailing list or whatever, That's just another thing you got to get. Now, every single time you look into your inbox, you're just going to get these, there's a bunch of extra emails that you got to click to take away, blah, blah, blah. It's just all these little things that really compound in your day where, again, if you just don't get those things involved, they're not as much of a problem. So I always recommend people go through their inboxes and just unsubscribe from all of the email things that you get that you've literally just never opened. Start with the ones you've never opened, and then after that, unsubscribe from the ones you haven't opened in 6 months or whatever. Just get rid of, just like, don't go super, you don't have to go full minimalist. Just take some of the crap out of your life. The stuff that just doesn't matter, just let it go. It's fine. It's crazy how quick that stuff adds up. All right, well, here we go. Here's the first comment that I like. I haven't read your previous post yet, but your progress sounds incredible. It takes serious discipline to stick with the mundane, often boring work that actually creates meaningful change in our lives. The brain naturally gravitates towards what's easy. Why work hard and solve complex problems when you can get the same dopamine hit by scrolling for 30 minutes on TikTok? So it's completely understandable why going cold turkey and cutting out everything harmful feels so difficult for most people. That being said, I wanted to ask, has waking up early made a meaningful difference in your life? I've been hearing for years that I should wake up early, but I've yet to find a strong enough reason to actually follow through. Yeah, like I said, I am not a morning person. Waking up early to me sounds like an absolute anathema to my entire life, and I absolutely despise it. But, sometimes when you wake up in the morning and you do the little things that you need to do to kind of set yourself up for success for the rest of the day, I think there's a lot of benefit to it. You could also do it the night before. You could, lay out clothes, that you're going to use the next day just to take, one more step out of your day. Little things like that can add up, can give you huge just benefits for the rest of the day. Also, doing some kind of physical movement in the morning is also a great idea to kind of get the blood pumping into your brain. So walking dogs is a great example. If you walk the dogs in the morning, I know I do that most mornings with the lady. We usually walk the boys, and that usually gets my brain pumping just enough to where by the time I get to the office, I'm usually pretty much even keeled Dr.D. And at that point, I can do all the things that I need to do. Here's another wonderful comment. Dude, this is kind of real talk we need more of. The willpower battery thing is facts. Most people just spin their wheels fighting themselves instead of setting up their day so they don't have to. Curious what the new traps were, though. That's where people actually slip up. Okay, so this will probably be the last thing I talk about for this episode, but because this is really important. The willpower. What is willpower? So there's these two concepts that I find come up pretty consistently with people trying to make changes in their lives. Willpower and motivation. I think a lot of people get them reversed because they think that motivation and willpower come in a certain kind of order. I think a lot of people think that motivation creates willpower, while I think it's quite the opposite, where the willpower actually creates the motivation. I think a lot of people are always thinking oh yeah, I'm going to just wait until the point where it's perfect and everything's set up in the exact right way, and I woke up just perfectly and I have just enough energy to where now I'm going to make this huge change in my life and I'm just going to go with it, and at that point it'll be super easy. I don't think that's ever going to be the case. Nothing is ever exactly perfect. It's super rare to find yourself in just the right situation where you're I have exactly the right amount of money with just the good enough of a mood with just enough gas in the tank of my car to just go out and pick up the exact amount of groceries that are exactly how much I wanted to pay for them. It just doesn't happen. That's not how life works. So if you come to a point in your life where you use motivation, and let's just say that motivation is I'm going to clean out, I'm going to eat all the snacks in my house or whatever, and then by that point I'm not going to rebuy them. So your motivation or your willpower is you don't have to constantly resist having these things in your house, because willpower is, I think, a battery. It will run out. You will crack eventually. It takes a rare human being to be able to have the willpower to resist the things that they want all the time. So what you need to do is create a new environment for yourself where you don't even need to rely on the battery because you don't have the option. I think that is one of the biggest differences between people that do and don't follow through with their goals, especially in a wellness or a New Year's resolution-y kind of thing. Because you'll notice that with New Year's resolution, there's a certain point in the year where people kind of break. January, everybody's I'm going to go to the gym this many times a week, and it's going to, my life is going to make these huge differences and blah, blah, blah. And then right around February, the attendance to the gym and, a lot of these things that people are trying to do to improve their lives, that's right around the time where they start to crack. I find a month is end range where people's willpower starts to really give out. So if you just create an environment where you don't even need to use the willpower, well, then you're going to be fine. And again, I think there's an unhealthy attachment to creating goals that are just not very sustainable, which really drains the willpower quickly. Again, if you just totally remove all the good things from your life that you really enjoy, bar something that's really quite harmful, let's just say an addiction to something, that's an entirely different discussion point. But if you are really into something, you really just like having dessert, and every time you go out, you're or every time you eat dinner, you're I want a bowl of ice cream before I go to bed or whatever. And in itself, that's not the most healthy thing that you can do with your day, but it's okay to do it like every once in a while. But then there you go. Where is the line drawn in? Should you have the ice cream in the house? Because now all of a sudden you got to use willpower to not do it every single day. Well, maybe you make a deal with yourself like, oh yeah, if I go an entire week without eating ice cream after bed, or after dinner, you say, oh, okay, well, I'll go out and eat. I'll have dinner somewhere where I know and there's like an ice cream place nearby, or maybe that place serves ice cream, and you give yourself like a little reward. I think that's the best way to do it. It's not a good idea to totally cut things out of your life that you totally enjoy, because you're gonna crack eventually. No human is perfect. But if you are still able to enjoy some of the things that are in your life, then you should enjoy them on some level. Just don't overly rely on them. Like I said, addiction's kind of one of the bad examples of that. And here's another, kind of lines up with what we were just talking about. This works great. In fact, way back in med school, I used to keep a thermos flask of black coffee ready overnight. As I turned off the alarm, I would pour myself a cup of coffee, which, thanks to the thermos flask not being a high quality one, would not be terribly hot, but still drinkable and warm. It was just a shot of black coffee, and then stick my toothbrush in my mouth, so be forced to brush my teeth right away. In about 5 to 10 minutes, the coffee would have kicked in anyway, and I'll be wide awake and ready to go. This step was only needed for me to reset a certain wake-up time. After a few days, I generally wake up a minute or two before my alarm went off. With my circadian rhythm having reset, the strategy works great. The other thing I did was for my running. To get back into it, I would make sure all my running gear is ready. Sometimes I would just sleep in shorts and t-shirt, and then we just have to put on my socks and shoes and run out the door within 5 minutes of my alarm going off. Granted that I would be doing a zombie shuffle for a few minutes, but then would get warmed up quickly and ready to pick up my pace. Yeah, and that's another thing that you'll notice in books and self-help things, where if you reduce the amount of friction, it's a lot easier to do things. A lot of people out there say at the very beginning, maybe go to bed in your running gear so that when you wake up, you can literally just swing your legs over the side, put your shoes on, and just start running. That is something that does usually correspond with a much better result in the things that you're trying to do. It's all about environment. If you want to make huge changes in your life and you don't start with your environment, like I said, you're probably going to be okay for like a month, and then you're going to crack. I see it happen all the time. Nothing wrong with that. Just what life is. Yeah, I think that wraps. I think that wraps up that whole topic. But sorry for the weird shift in my clothing and probably my facial hair. As you can see, I'm trying to go back to full facial hair so I don't look like a 9-year-old boy. But you know what? How about you? How about you guys? How about you comment? Tell me what the best facial hair is. The point of this whole second question definitely is environment. Just change your environment around. You'd be shocked at the differences that it causes. If you want to stop eating junk food, stop putting so much junk food in your house, and keep the things in there that force you to have to make food or anything like that. Just do it smartly. Just think about it. You might even go a week and just kind of like draw out a little plan for it and just be pre-contemplative. That really is quite helpful. But there you go. That's another episode in the books. Thank you for listening to this. Please, go to the Facebook and subscribe to this channel and hit the little notification bell. I'm trying to do it once a week. Trying to build a little bit of a buffer just in case anything happens. So if some of the comments and things I say or make references to don't make sense, it might just be because I recorded them super early. Although I don't really reference anything that's topical, I guess. I try to keep it in frame of mind of what we're talking about. But I love you guys. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I will catch you in the next one. Keep it popping out there. Hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.